Welcome back, everybody. We're diving deep into the NBA today. Looks like you sent over a whole bunch of game recaps, so I guess it's time to go past the box scores. Really break down some of the biggest matchups from last week.
Yeah, definitely. And you picked out some really good ones too.
Yeah.
Portland and Phoenix, Golden State facing off against Orlando. We've got Indiana versus Utah, Denver playing New Orleans, and then Sacramento battling it out with Minnesota. It's a lot. It really captures a lot of what makes this season so exciting. Yeah.
All right, well, let's unpack it all. Let's start with that Blazers-Suns game.
Okay.
Damian Lillard with 41 points, including that, just ice-cold game winner.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I love a good buzzer beater.
Right.
But I'm curious, did the Suns just totally collapse on defense, or was Lillard just in some unstoppable zone?
Well, Lillard was definitely feeling it, no doubt. But the recaps really highlight how the Blazers were using the pick and roll all night long to their advantage, especially with Lillard and Nurkic. And there was this one play late in the fourth quarter where Nurkic set a screen for Lillard,
Okay.
then rolls to the basket, and the Suns defender just hesitated for a second, caught between guarding Lillard at the three-point line and trying to stop Nurkic from driving. And that split second was all Lillard needed to sink the game winner.
So it was more than just Dame time. It was a strategic play. They really exploited a weakness in the Suns' defense.
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of Stockton and Malone, how their pick and roll used to just dismantle teams. Do you see any parallels there?
Definitely some similarities there.
Uh-huh.
It's all about having that chemistry,
Yeah.
that intuition, knowing where your teammate is going to be.
Yeah.
And Lillard and Nurkic have really developed that connection. It makes them pretty dangerous.
Yeah, for sure. What about the Suns, though? Was their defense really that shaky, or was it just a bad night for them?
Well, the sources all point out that the Suns have been struggling with perimeter defense all season long, and it definitely showed in this game. The Blazers shot 45% from three-point range, and a lot of that was just open looks. The Suns just weren't closing out fast enough.
Yeah.
They weren't effective.
So it sounds like Phoenix is going to need to tighten up that defense if they're thinking about going deep in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Let's shift gears a little bit, talk about the Warriors. Even without some of their big stars from the past, they still beat the Magic. Anything about how they won that game stand out to you?
Well, what I think is really interesting here is that even with all the changes to their roster, Golden State's still playing that classic Warriors style. Lots of ball movement,
Right.
quick passes, finding the open man.
Yeah.
There was a sequence in the third quarter where they ran their split action play to perfection. So Draymond Green sets a screen for Steph Curry.
Okay.
But instead of using the screen, Curry cuts towards the basket, goes back door. Green then slips the screen and pops out to the three-point line. And the Magic's defense was just totally confused,
Oh.
leaving Green wide open for a three-pointer.
See, that's the kind of insight that I'm talking about. It's not just saying, oh, they moved the ball well. It's showing me how they did it, breaking down the plays. It's like I'm watching a game with a coach.
Exactly, and that split action play, it's a classic example of how the Warriors create those scoring opportunities. It really relies on perfect timing and spacing and just trust between the players.
So they're adapting their system to the new players, but those core principles are still there. It's like they're passing down a basketball legacy. Pretty impressive.
Yeah.
All right. Let's touch on these other three games real quick before we go too deep on any one thing. Indiana pulled out a close one against Utah. Denver just dominated New Orleans. And then Sacramento had that last-second victory against Minnesota. Sounds like we had some real nail-biters this week.
Absolutely. And that just goes to show how competitive the league is this year. Any team can win on any given night. Really makes it fun to watch.
Speaking of fun to watch, let's talk about some of these young players who are really starting to make a name for themselves. Tyrese Halliburton had a double-double for Indiana. 28 points, 10 assists. Paolo Banchero dropped 22 for Orlando. And Lauri Markkanen put up 26 for Utah. These guys are balling out. What stood out to you about their performances?
I think what's really exciting is seeing these young guys really step up and take on those leadership roles,
Yeah.
making big plays. When it really matters.
Yeah.
Halliburton especially, he was really running the show for Indiana. He's got incredible court vision, passing skills, really dictated the pace of that game.
It's funny. I was reading an article earlier this week, and it was talking about how the game is evolving and how the traditional point guard role is kind of changing. It's not just about being a distributor anymore. It's more about being like a complete player who can score, facilitate, and defend. Do you think Halliburton kind of embodies that new type of point guard?
Absolutely. Yeah. He's not just setting up his teammates. He's looking for his own shot. driving to the basket, hitting those big three-pointers when they need it.
Yeah.
And on defense, I mean, he is a pest. He's constantly harassing the ball handler, disrupting passing lanes, getting those steals.
So it's like the point guard position is becoming more, I don't know, multidimensional.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting because it makes me wonder, like, what does that mean for other positions? Are we going to start seeing more big men handling the ball? More wings playing point forward?
It's definitely something to keep an eye on. The game's becoming more fluid, you know?
Yeah.
Players are kind of blurring the lines between those traditional positions. I mean, look at guys like Giannis and LeBron.
Right.
They can play all 5 positions.
Yeah.
That versatility is becoming so valuable in today's game.
So we've got the rising stars. Let's not forget about the coaches, though.
Right.
These recaps had some really great insights into the coaching strategies that were affecting these games. For example, the Blazers coach really effectively using those pick and rolls to exploit the Suns' weaknesses.
Yeah.
What other coaching moves stood out to you?
Well, in the Denver-New Orleans game, Denver's coach was all about pushing the pace, getting out in transition. You know, they wanted to run the Pelicans off the court.
Yeah.
And it worked.
Yeah.
Jokic was grabbing those rebounds and immediately throwing those outlet passes to his teammates who were already sprinting down the floor for easy baskets.
Yeah, it's like a track meet up there.
It is.
Do you think that up-tempo style is becoming more common in the league?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Teams are realizing that if they can get those easy baskets in transition, it really puts pressure on the other team.
Makes sense.
They have to scramble back on defense, creates all sorts of mismatches that you can take advantage of.
It's like controlled chaos. When it works, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Speaking of beautiful, let's talk about Golden State's ball movement for a sec. It's like hypnotic watching them pass the ball, cut to the basket, find that open man.
It's not just random passing, though.
Right.
It's a system, a philosophy. They're always looking for the best shot, the most efficient way to score.
Earlier, you mentioned that split action play. Can you break that down a little more for me? I want to understand how that works.
Okay, so imagine Steph Curry has the ball at the top of the key.
Okay.
Draymond Green sets a screen for him. But instead of using it, Curry cuts backdoor towards the basket. This draws the defender's attention, creates some space for Green to either roll to the basket or pop out to the three-point line. It's really all about timing, anticipation, reading the defense.
So it's like a well-choreographed dance, but the dancers are improvising at the same time.
Exactly. It's this beautiful blend of structure and creativity. Yeah. It's what makes the Warriors so hard to defend. You never know what they're going to do next.
So we've talked about stars, young and, well-established. And we talked a little about coaching, but let's zoom out for a second. Look at the big picture. Based on all these games, what are some of the bigger overarching trends that you're seeing in the NBA right now?
Well, the three-point shot obviously is still huge.
Yeah.
Teams are taking more threes than ever before, and they're getting better at shooting them.
Yeah.
It's really changing the game, stretching out those defenses, creating more space for players.
It seems like everyone is working on their three-point shot now. From the point guard to the center, is that something you think is going to stick around?
I think it's here to stay. It's not just a fad. It's a fundamental shift in how basketball is played.
Another thing that just jumps out is the athleticism of these players. It feels like every year they're getting faster, stronger, more explosive.
It's crazy. The level of athleticism in the NBA is just mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And it's not just about those crazy dunks and highlight reel plays. It's the quickness, the agility, the ability to, change direction instantly.
Defying gravity out there. But beyond the physical skills, I'm also noticing this trend towards more, mental toughness, more resilience.
Yeah.
These players are battling through adversity, coming back from injuries, pushing themselves further than ever before.
The mental game is becoming so important. Players are realizing that their mindset, their ability to focus and stay calm under pressure can be just as important as how strong they are, how fast they are.
So it's not just about being physically gifted. It's about having that drive, the determination to succeed. Going back to something you mentioned earlier about team chemistry and synergy, do you think that's becoming even more important in today's NBA?
Absolutely. In a league where there's so much talent everywhere, the teams that can play well together, that trust each other, that have that cohesion, those are the teams that are going to come out on top.
It's like they say, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Yeah.
You can have all the star players you want.
Right.
But they don't play as a team, it won't mean anything.
Exactly. And that's what makes the NBA so interesting to watch. It's not just about individual talent. It's this proving ground where chemistry is tested, strategies are developed, and legends are made.
And that brings us to a question for you, our listener. Looking at these trends, like the rise of all these young stars, how important coaching is, the emphasis on three-pointers, needing that team chemistry, what do you think is going to, I don't know, define the next era of the NBA?
It's a good question. It's tough to say for sure.
Yeah,
And the NBA is always changing, always finding ways to keep us on our toes.
right.
But if I had to guess, I'd say the teams that really figure out versatility in terms of their players' skill sets, but also how adaptable they are strategically, those are the teams that are going to dominate the league in the next few years.
Versatility. That's
Right.
interesting. Can you maybe unpack that a little bit?
Sure. So think about it. The game's becoming more positionless.
Mm.
We see guys who can handle the ball, shoot from anywhere, defend different positions, make plays for their teammates. The teams that can build a roster with players like that, players who can do it all, they're going to have a huge advantage. They'll be able to switch everything on defense, create mismatches on offense, adapt to any style of play.
So it's not about just having specialists anymore. It's more about having players who can do a bit of everything, like a Swiss Army knife of basketball players.
Exactly. And it's not just about the players either. It's about the coaches, too. The coaches who can design these innovative offenses, come up with creative defensive strategies, and change their game plan on the fly. They're the ones who are going to be successful.
So we're talking about a league where adaptability is everything.
Right.
The teams that can evolve, embrace change, they'll be the ones that thrive. It's like Darwinian evolution, but for basketball.
Yeah. The NBA is survival of the fittest. And the fittest teams are the ones that adapt to the changing environment.
Well, this whole conversation about evolution and adaptability has me so excited for the future of the NBA.
Me too.
It's going to be amazing to see how the game changes, how these young guys develop, how the coaches come up with new ideas.
And, maybe one of these games that we've been talking about today, maybe it holds a clue, a hint of what's to come. Maybe we just saw the start of a new dynasty or a whole new way to play the game.
That's what I love about the NBA. It's full of surprises, full of those moments that make you just jump out of your seat and go, whoa, did you see that?
Yeah. And those moments, those twists and turns, that's why we love basketball.
So to all of you listening out there, keep watching, keep analyzing, and keep thinking about that question. What will define the next era of the NBA? Maybe you'll be the first one to spot the next big thing.
And most importantly, enjoy the ride. The NBA is more than just a game. It's a story that's always unfolding.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll catch you next time for another deep dive.